Who are the four horsemen of the apocalypse? Well, you've got pestilence, war, famine, and death. All right, video over. Except that's not quite everything you should know.
Yeah, you know the whole four horsemen thing was just predicting the fall of the Roman Empire, right? Shh.
It all started 2,000 years ago when this guy named John wrote the book of Revelations, also known as the Apocalypse section of the Christian Bible. In it, John describes a dream of his where he saw four horsemen on four colored horses who were sent forth by God to begin the end times. The first apocalyptic omen is the white horse, whose horseman carries a bow and wears a crown. His mission to go out and conquer the earth. So it's no surprise that he's usually referred to as conquest, although he can sometimes go by pestilence too, as the word conquer can also be interpreted as spreading disease or even spreading the gospel.
See, actually, the white horse represents an age of prosperity for the Romans. Yeah, he even wears a crown like the Roman emperors. Plus, John wrote the book of Revelations after being exiled by the Romans, and you know what happened after that? 90 years of Roman prosperity.
Bro, it's not a Roman thing. The story's so open-ended, people have been applying it to different parts of history for as long as it's been around. I mean, look at the whole pestilence thing. You just said the first horseman's name is pestilence, right? And considering we just went through the worst pandemic in a century, I'm pretty sure John was foretelling right now.
Next is the red horse, ridden by a horseman carrying a sword and tasked to take peace from the earth, which is awfully fitting for a horseman known as war.
War, come on. Shh. It's just that this one is so obviously about Rome, you know? After the era of prosperity, they descended into almost a century of civil war. It got so bad that the once great empire crumbled into a military-run state, ruled by the might of the
sword.
Yeah, the sword. Yeah. Like the horseman was carrying.
Dude, are you even listening to yourself? War happens like all the time, right? The Russians and the Ukrainians are at war right now. Okay, it's become such a hot button topic. People think it's gonna start World War III.
Then comes the black horse, with its horseman holding a pair of weighing scales and describing rising food costs. I mean, if that doesn't describe famine to you, I don't know what does.
Now, this one's a little more complicated, but the black horse represents the oppression of the people. See, we go from the red, blood-stained horse to the black, more solemn-colored horse. And the scales fall in line nicely with the fact that the Roman Empire really started to fall apart once they began heavily taxing their citizens.
Or, maybe it represents rising costs in general. Like, I don't know, something like record high inflation. Have you tried to buy eggs recently?
And finally, our last horseman rides out on a pale or corpse green horse. And who better to ride out on a corpse-colored horse than Death himself?
And boom, there it is. The final nail in the coffin, pun intended. You start with the glory and prosperity of Rome, then the Civil War, and then famine. And by the year 260, 5,000 Romans are dying every day. The whole story is there.
Dude, it's the pestilence of COVID, the war in Ukraine, record high inflation, and food shortages. Plus, last year was the year that had the most deaths in recorded history.
Cut. I screwed up the last bit. Can we do that again? I'm sorry, guys.
Don't worry, bro. It's not the end of the world.